once said, "When I die, I would like to be cast in a thingamadiran wine with a few friends till that time when I can be called back to life by the solar warmth of my dear country." Oddly enough, his idea is not far from man's most recent efforts to cheat death. This new effort is called cryonics. It involves the freezing of your body so in the future they can bring you back to life. Sound interesting? Well, some people are gambling on this idea. So if this appeals to you, then listen up. Today, I would like to talk to you about the process of cryonics and some problems involved with cryonics. Cryonics is a process of deep freezing the recently deceased in hope that a cure for what killed them will soon be discovered in the future. Right now, the main company, Alcor, located in Scottsdale, Arizona, is home to 32 patients. One patient, by the name of James Bedford, has been frozen for 31 years in hope that he too will have another life. Steve Bridge calls cryonics just a cold burial with no time to weep around the deathbed. The process of cryonics starts right when the person dies. The Alcor emergency response team moves right into action because every second can make the process go down the drain. First, they hook up the CPR support system to reduce osmotic damage to the brain and continue to keep the blood flowing. Next, you are packed with thousands of pounds of ice and preservatives and put into a special carrying case where you will stay until you arrive at Scottsdale. When you arrive at Scottsdale, a glycerin solution is entered into your body to reduce tissue damage that freezing will cause. Next, you are cooled down to a negative 196 degrees. Now this is where you have a choice. You can either choose to have your whole body frozen, or you can choose to have neurosuspension, where they just remove your head. Next, you are placed in a large stainless steel cylinder. Liquid nitrogen is spread into it, and then you are stored into the back room, where you await your destiny, or at least that is the idea. The process of cryonics also needs many materials to perform. First, you need special chemicals, like heparin and phenobarbital, to prevent blood from clotting and to continue to keep the blood flowing. Next, you need thousands of pounds of ice and preservatives on the scene when the person dies. Finally, a specially trained surgeon should be on the scene at all times. But what would happen if somebody is resurrected successfully? They could possibly be 100 years behind everybody else. All family and friends would be deceased, and relearning even the simplest task would take some time. The second problem with cryonics is, will it ever work? Conventional cryobiologists, the people who freeze sperm with the odd body part, aren't too excited about the idea. They're worried about the degree of cell damage that freezing will cause, or how much cooling required if the person is unfrozen successfully. Arthur Rowe of NYU School of Medicine says, "Believing that cryonics can reanimate somebody that has been frozen is like believing you can turn a hamburger back into a cow." The third problem with cryonics is the cost. It'll cost you $120,000 to have your whole body frozen, but you can have your head frozen for only $50,000. This cost does not include how much your family and friends will have to pay to keep you frozen. The final problem with cryonics would have to be religious teachings. The Catholic religion says that when you die, you are to accept your judgment and not try to avoid God. Therefore, going with cryonics would be going against everything God says, and once again against the Catholic religion. But if cryonics does prove successful, what would happen to life? Everybody would keep coming back to life, nobody would ever die, and there wouldn't even be even a more crowded place than what it already is today. So in conclusion, I think being unfrozen would be fascinating, but there's still too many problems for me to ever consider this as an option. Maybe mortality isn't such a bad thing. As John Masefield once said, death opens unknown doors. It is most grand to die.
Budgeting money is a challenge for most adults. Just imagine what it's like for a little child. Alexander, who used to be rich last Sunday, by Judith Forrest. It isn't fair that my brother Anthony has $2 and 3/4 and 1 dime, 7 nickels and 18 pennies. It isn't fair that my brother Nicholas has $1 and 2/4 and 5 dimes and 5 nickels and 13 pennies. It isn't fair because what I've got is bus tokens. And most of the time, what I've mostly got is bus tokens. And even when I'm very rich, I know that pretty soon All I'll have is bus tokens. I know because I used to be rich. Last Sunday, Grandma Betty and Grandpa Louie came to visit from New Jersey. They brought lox because my father likes to eat lox. They brought plants because my mother likes to grow plants. They brought $1 for me, and $1 for Nick, and $1 for Anthony because Mom says it isn't very nice to say, but we like money. A lot, especially me. My father told me to put the $1 away to pay for college. He was kidding. Anthony told me to use the $1 to go downtown to the store and buy a new face. Anthony stinks. Nicky said to take the $1 and bury it in the garden, and in a week a dollar tree would grow. Ha, ha, ha. Mom said if I really want to buy a walkie-talkie, I should save my money. But saving money is really hard. Last Sunday, when I used to be rich, I bet that I could hold my breath till 300. But Anthony won. I bet that I could jump from the top of the stoop and land on my feet. But Nicky won. Because last Sunday, when I used to be rich, I went to Pearson's drugstore and got bubble gum. And after the gum stopped tasting good, I got more gum. And even though I told my friend David I'd sell him all the gum in my mouth for a nickel, he still wouldn't buy it. Goodbye, 15 cents. I bet that I could hide this purple marble in my hand, and my mom would never guess which hand I was hiding it in. I didn't know moms made children pay. Goodbye, another 15 cents. I absolutely was saving the rest of my money. I positively was saving the rest of my money. Except Eddie called me up, and he said he would rent me his snake for an hour. I always wanted to rent Eddie's snake for an hour. Goodbye, 12 cents. Anthony said that when I'm 99, I still won't have enough for a walkie-talkie. Nick said I'm too dumb to be let loose. My father said there are certain words a boy can never say, no matter how ratty and mean his brothers are being. My father would fine me 5 cents each for saying them. Goodbye, dime. Last Sunday, when I used to be rich, by accident I flushed 3 cents down the toilet. A nickel fell through a crack when I walked on my hands. I tried to get my nickel out with a butter knife, and also my mother's scissors. Goodbye, 8 cents, and the butter knife, and my mother's scissors. Last Sunday, when I used to be rich, I found this chocolate candy bar just sitting there. I rescued it from being melted or smushed. Except the way I rescued it from being melted or smushed was that I ate it. How was I supposed to know it was Anthony's? Goodbye, 11 cents. I absolutely was saving the rest of my money. I positively was saving the rest of my money. But then, Nick did a magic trick and made my pennies vanish in thin air. The trick to bring them back, he hasn't learned yet. Goodbye, 4 cents. Anthony said that even when I'm 99, I still won't have enough for a walkie-talkie. Nick said they should lock me in a cage. My father said there are certain things a boy can never kick, no matter how mean his brothers are being. My father made me pay 5 cents for kicking it. Goodbye, nickel. Last Sunday, when I used to be rich, Kathy around the corner had a garage sale. I positively only went to look. I looked at a half-melted candle. I needed that candle. I looked at a bear with one eye. I needed that bear. I looked at a deck of cards that was perfect except for no 7 of clubs or no 2 of diamonds. Who needs that 7 or 2? Goodbye, 20 cents. I absolutely was saving the rest of my money. I positively was saving the rest of my money. I absolutely, positively was saving the rest of my money. Except, I needed to get some money to save. I tried to make a tooth fall out. I could put it under my pillow and get a quarter. No loose teeth. I brought some non-returnable bottles down to Friendly's Market, but Friendly's Market wasn't very friendly. I looked in Pearson's telephone booth for nickels and dimes that people sometimes forget. But no one forgot. I told my grandma and grandpa to come back real soon. Because last Sunday, when I used to be rich, I used to have $1. I don't have that $1 anymore. I've got this dopey deck of cards. I've got this one-eyed bear. I've got this melted candle. And some bus tokens.
of her grandfather, chasing her through the house, bowl and spoon in hand, barking like a dog. If he performs well enough, she rewards him by accepting a mouthful of food. No problem, insists her grandfather. It's good exercise for him. The 11-year-old boy never gets up to go to the toilet in the middle of the night. That's because his mother, who gets up at his shout, positions a bottle under the covers for him. We wouldn't want him to have to get up in the middle of the night, his mother says. Another mother wants her 16-year-old to eat some fruit, but he is engrossed in a video game. Not wanting to get his fingers sticky or daring to interrupt, she peels several grapes and pops them into his mouth one by one. Not so fast, he snaps. Can't you see I have to spit out the seeds? What is creating this lack of respect for elders and peers and children? It's not some psychological phenomenon, but China's one-child policy. Parents spoiling their child because they have only one to give their full attention to. The Chinese call it the 4-2-1 syndrome. 4 doting grandparents, 2 overindulgent parents, all putting their hopes and ambitions on one single child. China's one-child policy is wrong. It needs to be stopped before its effects reach the rest of the world and our community. Now that the I'll give you the history of the policy, the consequences that arise from this drastic measure to control population, and why we should be concerned. The one-child policy is not an extremely new concept to the Chinese. It was adopted in 1979 in response to the drastic doubling of the population during the Zedong rule. China is currently the only country who has adopted this minimal reproduction plan. At first, its government started out with campaigns, monetary material incentives, and billboards showing happy families with only one child to try to encourage couples to have fewer offspring. Later, however, when this proved increasingly unsuccessful, the law got tougher. Now, each couple is restricted to exactly one child. Second-time pregnancy is punished with a forced abortion, heavy fine, or even imprisonment. According to the September 19, 1996 issue of U.S. News and World Report, the average cost to have a second child is between 20,000 to 50,000 yen. The average income is only 1,500 yen a year. And oftentimes, if a woman gets pregnant with a second child, she may lose her job and is forced into a lower class of society. When a couple wants to have a child, they must apply to the Family Planning Office. They need to have permission to procreate. Zhang Zihi, a birth control official in Shangping County, says, if a woman gets pregnant without permission, her and her husband will get fined. It is fair to fine her, because she creates a burden on the whole society by jumping her place in line. Every township or village in China has at least one family planning office. Their main job is to educate the people on options for birth control and encourage them to marry late and have their child even later. They keep track of all the women in their area and keep records of the menstrual cycles of women of childbearing age, the type of birth control they use, and their pending applications to have children. Now that the consequences of this 20-year-old policy are apparent, we should be concerned, even shocked. It isn't right that like any government's plan to control people's lives, this one is not without consequences. The first, most noticeable, is the pampered and overindulged children that result. They're accurately called little emperors because of the way they treat their elders and peers. According to the June 1992 issue of Population Policy, there are about 40 million only children in China's society today. These spoiled children will soon be the leaders of their country and represent the most populous country in the world. Many studies have been done on China's only children. One such study concluded that only children are generally disliked. A group of Chinese psychologists asked 360 Chinese children, half who had siblings and half who didn't, to rate each other's behavior. The only children were, without contest, the least popular, regardless of age or background. Their peers rated them more uncooperative and selfish than children with brothers and sisters. Besides being very self-centered individuals, China's children tend to be very overweight. Dr. Nai Guochen, Director of Endocrinology at Beijing Children's Hospital, says, because parents have only one child, they take extra good care of that child, which means feeding him too much. Also, according to Nai, about 5%, 1 out of every 20 of China's children are severely overweight, with 2 overweight boys for every overweight girl. This inequality may be contributing to even a third consequence in China's society today. Throughout the world,